journals. Checking to see where my head has been. And I've been apologizing to some people, some bridges I needed to mend. So I think I've used this song. Hello, welcome to another episode of Answering the Inner Call. I was going to say I think I've used this song to open another episode, but that's okay. Who says I can't have a repeat? That is by Jill Scott. I think it's called Woman. And, the reading the old journals, the reflection, I'm categorizing that as part of spiritual practice for today's episode. Spiritual practice being step 1 or point 1 of the 5 points of being a superstar, a spiritual superstar, a super duper star. Anyway, so let's get into it. If you haven't, my name is Malika Lee. If you haven't heard the episode that details the 5 complete steps or the process of being a 5-point spiritual superstar, please check that episode for reference. It'll help clarify this one, although each one is also a standalone. But for context, it couldn't hurt, right? Please check it out. It'll probably be the episode just right above this one or right before this one chronologically. All right, so now let's get back into it. So the benefits, which I detailed already, of being a shining superstar is in the previous episode. But one of the things that I'll say for me personally is that I find my spiritual practices to be an integral part. And that's one of the things I do every single day is honor my spiritual practice. Now the practices might change. I might be on something for 5-6 months and then it changes up. So what is a spiritual practice? I'm just going to give some examples and detail it. And I define spiritual practice for the sake of this conversation and in this context, practices, things that you can do that help support you to align experientially from a feeling place to the spirit. So that means things that bring you peace, things that calm you down, things that ground you, because life can be so busy, can get so stressful. And I find that having a spiritual practice helps. I'll just say this. High blood pressure runs on both sides of my family. The only things that I have done differently, because I do not have high blood pressure, I am consistently in a healthy blood pressure range. The 2 things that I would attribute this to that I have done differently that I've observed on either side of my family. One is having a meditation practice, like daily. Meditation, mindfulness, those are not one and the same thing, but I'm using them interchangeably here. And 2, I've been a pescatarian since I was in middle school. Those are the only 2 outer differences that I can attribute to from a lifestyle perspective that have led to me having a better health outcome than either side. When I say either side, like my dad, high blood pressure, my mom, high blood pressure, my maternal grandmother, I think my maternal uncle, like high blood pressure runs in the family. And just because something runs in your family does not mean that you will get it, but there is like a higher probability, right? If depending on lifestyle choices and other things. I'm trying to remember that. I'm trying to remember the name. Is it etymology? No, epi something. If you know what I'm talking about, put in the comments. But it's basically a term that is used to describe a person who may have a potential for a certain thing, but it may not be activated. Like it may be a recessive or it's not an activated gene or outcome. Dang it. Anyway, the name of it escapes me right now. So part of that is related to stress management, right? Meditation, mindfulness, getting to the spiritual practice of it all. So spiritual practice is part of being a spiritual shining star in my personal experience. And it is an important step and one that I encourage you to find whatever way supports you and speaks to your heart and soul and brings about a sense of calm. I'm just here to talk about and offer some examples of things that may be part of your spiritual practice or something to consider. And again, the spiritual practice are those things that ground us, that bring us more of that immediacy of experiencing the spirit in us. Joy, grounding, peace, calm, feeling centered. So some of mine over the years, and they've, like I said, sometimes they rotate and change. Meditation. And most of these things also bring an added benefit of like stress reduction. Meditation has been something that's been in my life for quite a long while. I first tried to learn how to meditate, inspired by my indirect first, I'm going to call her a spiritual teacher, just because she inspired me. And there was something about her that I really liked. And that was the actress who played Claire Huxtable on The Cosby Show, Felicia Rashad. I remember reading an article about her in middle school, maybe high school, that she meditates every day. And she attributed that to being like one of the main things that supported her in her life and her success. And so I was like, if it worked for her, let me check it out. Because I consider a practice being just that, like it's part of your way of life. Every other day, maybe every day, whatever speaks to you. It's not like a hard and fast rule. But of course, the more you use it, the bigger and better the benefit. So I tried to learn how to meditate, didn't go very well. I tried to learn from a library book. Nobody was talking about meditation in the Baptist church that I was raised in. It was before Oprah's big push of, spirituality on a grand scale. God bless her for that, of bringing some of that language to the masses. So anyway, meditation helps calm the nervous system, calm and slow down, not all the time the mind. It makes you become aware of the mind. So meditation, a mindfulness practice. Also, there is, scientific research that talks about the benefit of mindfulness, and also it being assisting in people dealing with stress and trauma and calming that down. So I've done mindfulness practices before. Some of the more non-traditional or uncommon ones that people don't talk about that I'm going to delve into here. Before getting to those, though, I want to talk about journaling. That was an early one for me. That journaling reflection, like it was such a cleansing process and connecting process. And some of these things may even overlap with another point called rest. Meditation and that stillness could also be considered rest, but I'm classifying it as spiritual practice. Okay, other ideas of spiritual practice, like I said, that may not be overtly considered spiritual, because there's that whole, this is spiritual and what's not spiritual. Things that bring you joy, doing things that are aligned with your gifts. For example, singing. And maybe your gift isn't singing, but, raising your vibration. People talk about good energy. What are those things that really cultivate that sense of goodness and good energy? What do you do when you need to, get a good energy boost? Shoot, a spiritual practice could be eating a piece of chocolate. If that calms your nerves and you can bring good energy after having a delightful piece of chocolate, that might be part of your spiritual practice. Singing is part of I didn't even realize that, but singing is part of my spiritual practice. Like it just it raises my soul. Like I can have a whole moment. And looking back, that's been the truth even when I was a kid. Like my favorite part of church was the music, hands down. So because it lifts my spirit, it can bring me a sense of joy, of peace, of feeling inspired. That's part of the spiritual practice. Dancing could be considered a part of your spiritual practice if it does that for you, if it feeds your soul. For some people, it might be cooking or another form of creative expression. All of those things that have creative expression that you can do with a sense of calm, with peace, with joy, coloring in a coloring book, painting, all of those things I'm classifying as spiritual practice. So that is the breakdown of point number 1 in having a spiritual practice. And those are some examples of what your spiritual practice can be. And of course, the point again is to really nurture and cultivate raising your energy, setting the tone for the day, bringing you back to a place of being centered, of being grounded. Oh, and I almost forgot nature. Spending time in nature is a really big one for people, specifically in my region of the country. I'm in the Northwest, where there's a lot of trees, which I love. and green and water. So sometimes for some people, having a spiritual practice of getting outside, being amongst the trees and the water and the ducks helps soothe and calm you. And that could be part of your spiritual practice. So the invitation is to identify one or two things, and you could have a list and rotate them. I'm not going to be like super rigid about this if this is something that's new to you or something that you want to deepen in, but identify like one or two things that really ground you, bring you a sense of peace and well-being, that feed your soul. And just, even if it's 5 minutes a day, or if you feel like you don't have time, just carving out 1 minute, 2 minutes of your time each and every day to have a spiritual practice, to nurture and nourish yourself in that way. And then I'd love to hear how it goes. If you would need support with that, with some accountability and structure, if you're ready to take those steps to be a spiritual shining superstar, if you just feel a calling, like, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, here we are, end of January, and I've already lost sight of what my goals are this year, and I'm already feeling like, oh, I can't wait till 2025. Reach out to me. If you need some support and you're ready to do the work, keyword on you're ready to do the work, then I would be ready to explore supporting you on that journey. A link for that is down. A link to schedule a 35-minute consult, complimentary, is in the description. And I would be happy to get better acquainted and find out what you're up to and what you'd like to fulfill and realize in this year to come and beyond. All right, I'm going to sign off for now. Much love, many blessings. And until the next time, keep going, keep growing, star. I see you. And you will definitely keep glowing. Bye for now.